Back at the Key Arena in Seattle, a sellout crowd despite the early start here in the Pacific Northwest, 5 o'clock Pacific time. And Seattle comes in with that 14-1 record. Here are the starting matchups. Ferry against Kemp. Mills. David Wingate gets his second start of the season tonight for Seattle. Michael Cage and Sam Perkins, who moves to the center spot. Bobby Phills, Hersey Hawkins, and Terrell Brandon and Gary Payton.
Hey, I think that Brandon and Payton are the most interesting matchup for tonight, just because they've had that great rivalry all the way through college. Brandon from University of Oregon, Payton from Oregon State, and here they are, two NBA All-Star caliber players playing head up, and that's the most interesting matchup tonight, Vern.
A Duck and a Beaver come to the home of the Huskies. It's perfect. Mike Fratello, IBM Coach of the Month for December in his third full season now as head coach of the Helium Cavaliers, and George Karl, who began his coaching career in 1984 with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I see, Vern, that he still hasn't got his hairpiece yet or his membership at the Hat Club. I tried to tell him that before the game.
And he wasn't listening. Well, last year, Seattle won both games, and they won the first by 31 points, the second by 24. So Cleveland, at the very least, wants to narrow that margin tonight. And the officiating crew tonight, Eddie Rush, Terry Durham, and Gary Benson. Cleveland 19-15. Seattle comes in with that 25-10 mark. Brandon gets into the hands of Chris Mills. Look underneath where Hersey Hawkins fronts Bobby Phills, and they lob it over, and 2 points.
Well, Cleveland does offensively, and we'll see them do this all night. They'll try to pick out the one mismatch that they have and try to create shots for other people. Right now, they feel that Bobby Phills can take advantage of Hersey Hawkins on the low post.
Gary Payton guarded by Terrell Brandon. Hawkins cuts. Wingate bounces outside, getting his second start of the season tonight, replacing Irvin Johnson. Perkins to Payton for 3 off the front iron.
Good defense by Cleveland right there. That's exactly what they want. They want to take away the inside game of Kemp and make Gary Payton or David Wingate shoot the perimeter shot.
Ferry and Brandon on the pick and roll. Now Payton comes out. They got the switch in the mismatch. Perkins looks for his man. Chris Mills, too strong. Hersey Hawkins with a rebound. Wingate into the corner for Sean Kemp. Here's Sam Perkins for 3. He's been cold from three-point range recently. Sam hitting only 35% from long range, and that's one of his forts. 2-0. Game off to a slow start. Danny Ferry finds the open man. Michael Cage for 2.
Danny Ferry's made 2 excellent passes in reading the rotations and reading the fronting of the defense on the first pass. Danny Ferry's really improved his game this year, Vern, and maybe the most improved player on this Cavalier team.
There's the quick hands of Bobby Phills. And another steal for Cleveland. Payton almost got it back, but it's off the basket and good by Brandon.
Almost a good defensive play by Payton, but Brandon got the lucky bounce. He got the easy 2. All set up by the Phil steal at the other end.
Quick turnaround. Sean Kemp traveled. Well, an interesting contrast, not only the scoring, but the defensive posture of the two teams. Seattle leads the league in steals with 11, and they lead the league in forced turnovers. But Cleveland, in contrast, turns it over less than any team in the NBA.
Well, and I think it's just because of the tempo, Vern. Cleveland's tempo, their possessions are a lot less because they run the shot clock down so far every possession. So that's a little bit deceiving. Right now, Cleveland's milking the clock every possession.
Chris Mills backs in, draws a foul. David Wingate. What's the reason behind the David Wingate start tonight?
He felt that the perimeter game of Chris Mills, Bobby Phills, and Danny Ferry matched up better than having Irvin Johnson post up defense in the game.
So David Wingate, who came with Hersey Hawkins last season, or on the offseason, the trade for Kendall Gill. And Chris Mills is at the line. 80% free throw shooter.
Chris Mills was a steal in the draft for Cleveland, 22nd pick in the draft. And he was not very happy about that and thought he was going to go a lot higher, and had a reputation being a Pac-10 player as being a little bit soft, but that's certainly not the case, and has proven that reputation to be a tough, hard-nosed, competitive NBA player now.
Offensive board for the Cavaliers, who jumped out to a 7-0 lead. Here's Brandon. They knocked off Phoenix Sunday night in what proved to be Paul Westfall's last game as a coach. Here's Brandon, long range off the front. Phills and Payton battle for it, and it's going to be Cleveland ball.
Right now, Cleveland is getting great looks. Great shots. Are getting threes, they're getting open jumpers, and they've got 2 lay-ins so far. If they can hit that outside shot, they can stay in this game in Seattle.
Stolen by Payton. Fouled by Michael Cage. If there's such a thing as a good foul, that was one.
Well, this is just a horrible decision by Chris Mills. He looks like he's in trouble, but Danny Ferry is available for him to make the inbounds pass to. And he tries to get cute, makes a cross-court bounce pass, which is a cardinal sin in basketball.
Breakaway foul, so Payton tied with Mookie Blaylock, leading the league 96. He's got 97 now, so at least for the moment.
Seattle looks like they're going to try to put a little bit of pressure, try to pick up the tempo to some degree here. They want their game running. They don't want this half-court tempo.
Danny Ferry. Mills inside to Bobby Phills. They post up again with Hersey Hawkins. Brandon guarded by Gary Payton, and there's the block by Payton. Nifty defensive play. Sean Kemp missed it. Fouled. Danny Ferry is down.
This is an incredible defensive play. Terrell Brandon, excellent outside shooter, penetrator. That's why Gary Payton is first team all defense right there. That's why he's an NBA All-Star. He does a lot of little things. Leads to an easy break. Kemp should have made this shot. Guy can jump that high and get that close. You got to make that, even if you are fouled.
Beaver beat the Duck. And the Dookie with the foul. Sean Kemp at the line.
Well, that was beautiful defense by Payton. He rotated out. Brandon had the shot, thought he could beat him off the dribble. Gary held his ground and still was able to block the shot.
Indiana currently in second behind Chicago and in front of Cleveland in the Central Division, leading at halftime. So the last 4 points now have gone Seattle's way at 7-4 at the 9-minute mark. 22nd timeout called because of the pressure. And Chris Mills couldn't get it inbounds.
And that's the kind of presence of David Wingate. David Wingate right there was denying Terrell Brandon the ball. Now I know Terrell can get open against David Wingate. He wasn't working hard enough. He was relying on one of his teammates to get open. Chris Mills made a good play by calling a timeout.
Oh, we mentioned in the open, Danny, that Cleveland made those big trades in the offseason, Mark Price and John Hunron Williams. Then they started off 0-7, and nothing was going right for them. They were particularly blowing leads in the fourth quarter, Mike Fratello said. But then things turned around. 19-8 in the last 27. Scoring average has gone up, point differential, everything.
And I think the big things right there are field goal percentage and free throw percentage. Those are so critical. And they do have a lot of close games, so it's even more critical. But I believe that they just have confidence in themselves, and they are just starting to play. Mike Fratello has found a system that is good for this personnel.
Tyrone Hill with the team, but Mike Fratello said this morning he's a long way from being ready to play.
We saw Tyrone working out before the game tonight, and he looked a long way to go. I think he's milking that car. He said, I was teasing him about it in the locker room.
7-4, 8:54 remaining in the opening quarter of play.
They got a mismatch up top. We'll see which mismatch they try to take.
There's Ferry with Payton on him. Too strong. Perkins with the rebound. Wingate brings it across by Ferry. Sean Kemp. Double comes from Danny Ferry. They get the ball to Perkins, quickly to Payton. Gary, who hit 14 of 14 in the first game between these two last year, has missed 2 shots in this one. Here's Kemp again, the double from Ferry again. The soft jump hook is short. Bobby Phills with the rebound.
Good defense by Michael Cage right there. And Sean getting a little impatient down the low post. He knows that if he puts it on the floor, he's going to get double teamed, so he's trying to shoot it very quickly.
Brandon and Perkins again. There's the mismatch. Brandon takes it over Sam Perkins.
I like that mismatch a lot better than trying to post up Danny Ferry on Gary Payton.
Kemp misses a short one again. Wingate with a rebound. Left-handed, no good. Kemp again, finally.
Well, Kemp just showed his great athletic ability. He's one of the leading rebounder in the NBA, and he's just working hard and out over jumping the smaller Cleveland Cavaliers.
How do you like our how do you like our broadcasting spot? We're sitting in the stands.
I love it. There's guys right behind us. In fact, they're drinking my water right now, Larry.
For what they paid for those seats, give it to them. Kemp gives it off to Payton. Reverse layup is good.
That's a good cut and a good adjustment by Gary Payton. He's missed a couple outside shots, so when they're double teamed, he decides to go to the basket.
11-8, 7:05 to go in the opening quarter of play. Cleveland started this road trip by losing to San Antonio and Denver, and then they knocked off Phoenix. They've yet to go to Vancouver, where they play right after next. There's the rejection by Shawn Kemp, and time has been called. We've got 6:52 remaining in the opening quarter. 11-8, Cleveland. Back in Seattle, Cleveland leading 11-8. 6:52 to go in the opening quarter.
Okay, right here we have a pick and roll, and they got a switch with Sam Perkins guarding Terrell Brandon up top. They take advantage of the mismatch with Gary Payton guarding him. Ferry makes a good move and gets the foul. I like the mismatch of Terrell Brandon trying to take Sam Perkins off the dribble. Gary Payton, one of the top defensive players in the league, is still a pretty good post-up defender, even when he's defending bigger people.
Berry goes to the line. Interesting this morning, Danny. Mike Fratello, you asked him who's the most improved player. He thought a long time and mentioned that Ferry was one of them.
Definitely Ferry. You got Ferry or Mills or Phils, one of those three, he thought. He thought maybe this is the opportunity that Danny was getting right now. And also we talked a little bit about he knows now what his role is. They always wanted him to lose weight to become a 3-man, gain weight to become a 4 or 5-man. So he feels more comfortable with where he's at this year, playing basically the 4 and just playing to his strengths.
Vincent Askew has come off the bench for the Seattle Supersonics. Kemp with the rebound and putback.
I got a feeling that's going to be a problem all night with the rotating defense of Cleveland. Shawn Kemp is such a great leaper and a good athlete that they're going to have a tough time keeping him off the glass.
Kemp with 6 points, and the 7-point lead has almost disappeared. It's down to 2 now. Here's Phil's getting fouled by Hersey Hawkins.
Well, that's one of the mismatches that they're going to take advantage of and exploit, is Hersey Hawkins trying to guard the bigger, stronger Bobby Phils.
Second foul on Hersey Hawkins. And the 14th foul of the quarter called against Seattle. Bobby Phils goes to the line. 5th-year man out of Southern.
Right now, it looks like Seattle's talking about defensive adjustments right now. Bobby Phils has taken Hersey Hawkins to the school a couple times in the low post, and I believe they'll put Vince Askew on Bobby Phils now, and Hersey will go over to guard Chris Mills. Let's see if Cleveland counters by posting up Chris Mills.
I'll congratulate you if they do. Coach. 6:12 to go, opening quarter. 13-10. Here's Gary Payton and Brandon. Askew guarded by Chris Mills. There's Kemp, and the double comes from Ferry, leaves Hawkins open, and it's in and out. Mills with the rebound.
Well, that was a designed play. They knew they were double teaming quick, so they set the pick for the shooter Hawkins to make sure he got the shot out of the double team.
Chris Mills finds Michael Cage too strong. Askew rebounds Sonics. Gary Payton doesn't have the numbers. Gets it back into the hands of Shawn Kemp, and the crowd's urging him to try his 7th three-pointer of the season. And a foul away from the ball. Danny Ferry, I believe. Yep. Nate McMillan checks into the lineup now for the Supersonics. Nate, who had 2 different times this year has been on the injured reserve list. He missed the first 10 of the season with an ankle problem, and then just recently came back from a 6-game hiatus. And here's Dan Marley, who had 20 points in his first visit back to Phoenix last Sunday night.
It was good to see, Vern. Dan had a good game against his home Phoenix Suns, and the fans gave him a standing ovation, and I know he was one happy man.
Gary Payton misses again. And here's Brandon. Well, let's see what they do defensively. McMillan has Mills. Marley draws Perkins. Askew on Bobby Phillips.
Well, right now they're going to try to isolate Dan on the perimeter with Sam Perkins trying to guard him.
Little runner. Whoa! Whoa!
Well, that's not the strength of Dan's game. Next time we'll see him pulling up for the jumper over Perkins, but he wants to establish that drive first so he can do what he really likes to do and shoot that three when he has bigger guys defending him.
Payton kicks it back to Perkins. Seattle 0 for 4 from three-point range so far. Here's Askew. He'll pass on it. Marley comes at him. Takes the runner in the lane. It's no good. Seattle not shooting well. Here's Michael Cage with a rebound. Michael, who earlier this season in a 20-20 game on this road trip, as a matter of fact, in Seattle. 20 points, 20 rebounds.
Cleveland's doing a good job defensively of making Seattle take the shots they want them to, and Seattle settling for the shots that Cleveland wants them to take.
McMillan running for Seattle. 5-point Cleveland lead. Here's Perkins. Yep, this time there's no double team. Instead, the tussle underneath Askew, and he can't get the shot away. Brandon saves it on the pass from Michael Cage. Under 4 minutes to go first quarter.
Michael Cage is doing an excellent job defending Shawn Kemp and rebounding the basketball right now.
Look at the Seattle shooting. 3 of 14, 22%. Brandon. Air ball. Cage gets the loose ball. 24-second shot clock violation.
Well, I think the ball hit the rim, and I think that's what Terry Durham is telling the scorer.
Okay.
I think they're going to reset that clock. I think that ball does touch the rim.
23 seconds on the shot clock. Cleveland ball.
There's a shot from Brandon. Yep.
Yeah. Yep, it just skimmed the rim. Good call by Terry Durham, right on top of it.
15-10, 3:37 tempo favor Cleveland so far.
Yeah, I think this is definitely in Cleveland's favor. They're running the shot clock down every possession, and they're forcing Seattle to try to rush some shots because they're open, even though they're not the shots they want.
Marley. Kemp comes out of the switch. Mills. Now let's watch that shot that you didn't recognize from your former teammate, Dan Marley.
Well, Dan has the mismatch right here. This is the matchup they want to take advantage of, and he doesn't really beat Perkins. It's pretty good defense. Dan throws up a very low percentage shot and hits it.
I think he just got the ancient horse.
Yes, definitely. If he's playing against me, I know I couldn't make that running right-hander.
Chris Mills at the free throw line.
We talked about Marley coming off a real emotional game. It's going to be interesting to see how he reacts. He put so much heart and energy into that game in Phoenix. He wanted it so badly. Sometimes you have a tendency to let down the next game after that.
Marley gets the rebound, kicks it back to Terrell Brandon. 16-10. Cleveland scored the first 7 of the game. Seattle closed to within 2 at 12-10, but now the last 4 have gone Cleveland's way. Here's Marley again. Takes it off the dribble, back to Brandon for 3. Yes.
That is beautiful fundamental basketball. You pick out the best matchup you have. You try to create a double team. Dan Marley penetrates, hits a seam, Terrell Brandon wide open. See, Cleveland is getting good shots every time down the court, Brian.
George Karl was telling us an hour and a half before the game he worried about their three-point shooting. 24% of their shots, their points rather, come from three-point range. They're not afraid to put it up either. Here's Kemp. Got it. 19-12.
Kemp just jumps over everybody.
Time has been called with 2 minutes and 35 seconds remaining in the opening quarter. Cleveland by 7.
Program is authorized under broadcasting rights granted by the National Basketball Association. Any publication, reproduction, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, or accounts of this game without the express written consent of the National Basketball Association is prohibited.
Let's go back and take a look, Danny Ainge, at that three-pointer that was set up by Cleveland.
Well, right here, they have the matchup they want. Right here, this is the best matchup for Cleveland with Sam Perkins guarding Dan Marley at the top of the key. Dan is going to come in. He's going to fake the three-point shot. They have to respect that on Marley. He drives by. Everybody sucks in the paint, trying to help out on the mismatch, and Terrell Brandon's wide open for a 3. Great defense, or great offense and execution by the Cavaliers.
Brandon's three-pointer gave Cleveland, for the moment, a 9-point lead. It's back to 7 now. McMillan defending Brandon. Marley Payton picks him up now. Over Kemp, here's Chris Mills. He hits it for three.
That's a beautiful shot. That's Chris Mills. Had the mismatch that time. He had the bigger Shawn Kemp on him. Kemp had to respect the quickness of Mills, and Mills pulled up and hit the three. Beautiful execution.
And a foul underneath at the other end. Let's go back and take a look at Chris Mills.
Well, Chris Mills, you know, he is a well-rounded player. He can pass, he can shoot, he can defend, he can penetrate. He can do all the little things. He doesn't do anything great, but Mike Fratello told us this morning that he's probably his most complete player.
And that three-pointer has given Cleveland on the road a double-digit lead of 10. Kemp at the free throw line. And that's the second one he's missed tonight.
You know, Vern, Seattle had a tough game last night. It's going to be interesting to see if the fatigue comes into play. Cleveland had the day off, and Seattle had a tough one last night in Golden State.
Won that game 104-95. They had to come from behind to win it in the fourth quarter. Gary Payton had 11 points in the fourth quarter. Here's Marley driving, kicks it in the corner. Bobby Phills and Chris Mills. Double team comes from Gary Payton. Phills puts it up and in. Wow.
Well, that was a great move, but that showed incredible strength to get that shot off. Through the double team, Maya got fouled.
24-13. Kemp has the answer at the other end. But thus far, he's been the only one who's given them any kind of offensive output.
Well, he's a man among boys out there tonight. They don't have anybody that can defend him in the post consistently. They've been double teaming him quick. Cage will do as good as you can do, but Shawn Kemp's good on one-on-one block.
Back it goes to Bobby Phills. Finds Marley for three. Too strong. And an offensive board for Michael Cage. Nice pass to Marley for two.
Oh, that's good execution. Good play by Brandon, hitting him in the middle of the paint, and good find on Marley. And a good finish as well.
Lead is 11 in the final 54 seconds of the first quarter. Payton, Nate McMillan.
You can see, Vern, they got Seattle running a lot of time off the clock each time down the court.
5 on the shot clock here. Back to McMillan for three. Yes.
Big shot. Big shot. They needed that. They needed that. They need to make them pay for playing that kind of defense. But still, Cleveland's not too disappointed with that possession. They make them run the whole clock, and they'll get into a three-point shooting contest with Seattle.
And his foot was ruled to be on the line, so it counts as a 2-point instead of 3. Irvin Johnson's going to make an appearance now in the lineup. And Sam Perkins will get a rest.
Well, now Irvin Johnson, they're probably going to have him match up against Michael Cage, which will give a mismatch on the perimeter for Marley, Mills, or Phills to take advantage of Shawn Kemp and try to get him in foul trouble and beat him off the dribble on the perimeter.
Chris Mills at the line. Foul was on McMillan, his second.
People should learn a lot from this game, Vern. It's not that complicated. Pick out the guy, beat him off the dribble, create a shot for your teammate. And they do have good shooters, and like we said in the open, these guys are good players.
Well, Mike Fratello said one of the things he learned in that 7-game losing streak to start the season, he was playing too many men. He shortened his bench early and just decided that his strength was in his top 7, top 8. He's only played 6 so far. Kemp doesn't go as the buzzer sounds. We've reached the end of one, and the Cleveland Cavaliers, playing on the road against a team with a 14-1 record at home, played very well in the first 12 minutes. They lead it by a count of 28-17. We are at Key Arena, just north of the downtown area in the beautiful city of Seattle, where the Cleveland Cavaliers have outlasted Seattle in the first quarter, 28-17. A Cleveland team that doesn't score much, but they also don't allow many points, Danny.
Well, they play an ugly style of basketball. No player comes into the NBA and wants to walk the ball up and shoot with 5 seconds or less on the shot clock. Matter of fact, I was teasing Bobby Sura about that. In the rookie game, he's going to get to shoot on the fast break. But they're winning the battle at the temple right now, and it's in their favor.
Notice the turnovers or the absence thereof. That point we made earlier that Cleveland leads the league in fewest turnovers committed, 14. Kemp gets another. He's got 13 points now.
Well, that was a lucky bounce for Seattle because Cleveland played pretty good defense and stripped the ball from Payton, and it just, unfortunately for Cleveland, bounced in Shawn Kemp's hands.
And at the other side of that turnover story, of course, Seattle forces 19 turnovers per game. They've only turned over 2 so far. Foul is on Kemp.
Just as Payton drives in here, Marley strips the ball, bounces off his foot. Kemp got good hands down low, finishes it off for a dunk. But, you know, I think Seattle will make an adjustment to this slow tempo right now. You know, this is such an ugly style of play. Every team, it takes a little while to catch on to this tempo, and it causes them to play ugly.
Are you a fan of this style?
Definitely not. But it's effective. I give Mike Fratello a lot of credit because it fits his personnel.
Bobby Phillips for 3, misfires. 28-19, the lead is 9. Shawn Kemp is getting a rest. It's Johnson. Vincent Askew, that shot doesn't go underneath. And the rebound in the hands of Michael Cage. He's got 5 rebounds now. Brandon Cage, Bobby Phillips, Chris Mills, and Dan Marley.
Michael Cage has been playing a lot of minutes, and I sit there and look at the bench and look at the roster, and I wonder what they're going to do when they decide he needs to get rest, because they got Antonio Lang playing backup center and Joe Courtney and Danny Ferry, and that could be a problem for him.
And of course, Brad Doherty's status is really undetermined. Out with an injury, back injury, and Mike Fratello said today that they have been told by the doctors, we'll give you a progress report at the All-Star break.
It's a little frustrating. They don't know if he'll ever be able to play again or if they want to use the money to go out and sign a new free agent this summer by waiving him. But I think if there's any chance that Brad Doherty can play, that Cleveland will keep him. Right now they've come in with Danny Ferry, and they're going to play him at center, and I guess they'll be able to get away with it for a while because Shawn Kemp's out of the game. So Mike Fratello knows he needs to rest Cage when Kemp is out.
Doherty out injured. Mark Price, of course, was traded. Larry Nance retired, and Tyrone Hill injured in that car accident just prior to the start of the 3rd game of the season. And an offensive, or rather, foul called on Irvin Johnson. Lane violation, not a foul. Lane violation called by Gary Benson. So
that's a free throw shooter's dream right there. You miss one in lane violation.
And Marley capitalizes. It's back to a 10-point margin, or 11 rather, 30-19. Payton, McMillan in the backcourt now. Askew playing the 3 position. Hersey Hawkins, Irvin Johnson.
Here we are again, 5 seconds on the shot clock.
Gary Payton, got it.
I think that's where they're vulnerable with the fences that they have and the rotations they have. Gary Payton, I think, can make them vulnerable by hitting the seams of the defense and doing that spin move in the paint.
Marley looks inside, where Phillips is posting up. Hersey Hawkins fronts him. They kick it back out to Ferry for 3, just off the mark. Well executed, though.
Yeah, real good execution. He just needs to make that shot.
McMillan, that's for 2. Rebound, Chris Mills for Cleveland. The shooting woes continue for the Seattle Supersonics. They are 8 of 23. George said they've had a couple of ugly wins recently where they shot in the 30s and yet still managed to eke out victories.
Well, that just tells you how good their defense is, Vern. When they can win shooting in the 30s, that's incredible defense.
Johnson is second. 13 fouls.
Coming up Friday night on TNT, Glenn Rice and Larry Johnson lead the Charlotte Hornets into Miami to face Alonzo Mourning in the Heat. Coverage begins at 8 o'clock Friday night on TNT. McMillan picked up the foul. That's his 2nd.
We talked about this in the open, Vern, but Terrell Brandon is a terrific player. He is having a terrific year. He definitely deserves the All-Star team. There's not another guard in the East that matches up with him after the 3 superstars, and Hardaway, Jordan.
Take a look at the improvement this year. 10 points per game. The assists are up by 2.5. Field goal percentage is up. Are you surprised by that?
No, Terrell Brandon's always been a good player, and I think that when Mark Price left, he's just now getting an opportunity to play more minutes and put up better numbers.
Hersey Hawkins
Cleveland tried to run that half-court trap to slow down the tempo, and Seattle attacked it like they should do. Here we got a mismatch with Brandon being guarded by Irvin Johnson again.
Brandon gets it for 2.
That's got to be really frustrating right there. That was good defense by Irvin Johnson, keeping Brandon in front of him, forcing him to shoot the shot with 3 seconds left on the shot clock.
Hawkins for 3. It won't fly. Under 9 minutes now, and the lead is back to 10. Brandon, a different kind of player than Mark Price?
Yeah, he's much more patient, slow, methodical. Probably just as much quickness as Mark. Mark was speedier, hurried up the court, pushed the ball up the court, and was more of an up-tempo player.
Marley gets the offensive board, but then it's slapped back in his face. Here's Askew for Seattle. Into the hands of Nate McMillan. Gary Payton kicks it back out to McMillan. Foul on Bobby Phills. Go back and take a look at Terrell Brandon offensively.
Well, this is good. Look at Irvin Johnson. He's got his feet spread apart. He's moving. He's keeping his head down. The little guy can't get by him. He just backs up, recognizes there's 3 seconds on the shot clock. Pow! Gets the 3, and you go, oh, no. You can't play better defense than that. But one thing they can do is quit switching so much. George Karl told us they don't like to get the mismatches, and here, Brandon should not be being defended by Irvin Johnson on the perimeter. They need to be mano defense and shut their man down a little better.
Perkins and Kemp come back on the floor for Seattle, so they join McMillan, Payton, and Hersey Hawkins now is the 5 on the floor for the Sonics. Marley, Phils, Chris Mills. Here's Kemp. The double comes from Phils. Gary Payton is fouled by Chris Mills. Mills and Phils will cause you consternation if you talk for a living.
Well, not only do their names sound alike, their games are a little bit alike.
Right.
Same size.
Foul is on Marley, his first, second team foul. And Gary Payton will, or Vincent Askew rather, will go to the line. I saw the 2 and didn't see the 0. Thought I saw the 0.
Vince Askew comes off the bench, plays a lot of minutes in the absence of Detlef Schrempf, but we asked George why he wasn't going to start, and he said he didn't like to start. He just wants to come off the bench and play.
There's Detlef Schrempf, who's expected back from that broken leg in about a week. He was out here working out on his own before the game. We counted, he hit 9 3-pointers in a row. He hasn't lost a touch.
He looks a little closer and a little better than Tyrone Hill right now, Bert.
I think so. Cleveland 1 turnover in 16 minutes. Ferry looks for Marley, who's in the low post. This one won't fly. At the other end, Hersey Hawkins. Ferry's playing with 2 fouls. Shot clock at 10. Askew underneath the Kemp. Marley with the defensive play.
Dan Marley's one of the best at stealing the pass out of a trap. He's got very strong and good hands. He deflects more passes out of double teams than anybody I've ever played with.
There's Danny Ferry, kicks it back out to Brandon, who spots up for the 3. Got the look, got the shot.
You know, Terrell Brandon was telling us he's not as good a perimeter shooter as Mark Price. Today when I was interviewing him, I said, Terrell, come on, you're shooting over 40%, 90% from the line. He goes, well, I'm still not quite as good as Mark Price. That tells you how good a shooter Mark Price is.
Brandon has 12, the foul this time on Marley. It's Dan Marley, along with Antonio Lang and a draft pick, came to Cleveland from Phoenix.
Riders of the Purple Sage.
Back in Seattle, where Cleveland has a 10-point edge, and 12 of those 10 come from Terrell Brandon, who talked with Danny Ainge about Mark Price's influence on his game.
By sitting down and watching Mark, you know, I've garnered a lot of respect for him. You know, his off-the-court presence have always been something to admire, because you don't see him in the headlines of doing things negative, but you always see things positive. And he brings that onto the court, though he's a fierce competitor. He passes the ball well, try to make his teammates better, and he split the defenses as well as anyone in league history. So in that, I watched him and I paid close attention to him, and And some of the things that I do, I was actually stolen some of his moves from him. So I appreciate that in him.
I think he particularly stole the shooting stroke from him, Vern.
Sam Perkins. Nope, Kemp with a... Oh, he got it. Got it to go. Kemp has 15 points.
But we got Bobby Sura in the game at point guard. He's learning a new position. Good young player. You know, I was teasing Bobby today because he tried to compare himself to Clyde Drexler. I said, hey, you better learn to be Danny Ainge first.
and what did he respond?
He said everybody was comparing him to Danny Ainge when he was in college, but I guess he has higher goals than that, Vern. He wants Clyde Drexler.
Hawkins on the drive. The tip from Askew is good.
Well, I think that's where Cleveland could be susceptible is the penetration on the double team. They would like it if Seattle shot jump shots, three-pointers all night long when they double down on the low post. When they penetrate that seam, they've been effective tonight.
Lead is at 6, it was at 11. McMillan fronts Marley. Marley is fouled by Perkins as he gets the ball and goes up for the shot.
Dan's got to be loving this. He played his last 3 years in Phoenix with Charles and KJ, and they never ran a play for Dan. Dan just had to get the open shots and all the garbage off of those guys. And here in Cleveland, he's one of the go-to guys.
Well, you and Dan are very, very good friends, and I know he was devastated by the trade. Has he come around a little bit now?
Yeah, he's actually having fun, Vern. He loves the group of guys he's with. He loves Mike Fratello. He's very excited about being in Cleveland right now. He hasn't shot the ball as well as he's capable of, and so he's very frustrated that he hasn't played up his potential. But Mike Fratello loves his energy, his defense, his loose balls, everything.
Marley with the second shot. Marley has a lot to like. 5:40 to go. 36-29. Here's Dan in the low post. Kemp comes to help out defensively. They get it to Danny Ferry, and he throws it into the hands of Sean Kemp. That's 3 turnovers and 2 of the last possessions. Back to Askew. Well, Kemp loses the dribble, gets it back out to Vincent Askew. Perkins, Sura guards him. Entry pass is knocked away by Danny Ferry.
Good defense by Cleveland. 5 seconds on the shot clock again. They're making it very difficult for Seattle to get quick shots.
It really is a matter of tempo, isn't it?
Yes,
and
it
strong
is.
defense. Their opposing teams are hitting 47% from Cleveland against Cleveland, and yet here they are averaging 91 points defensively. That one's knocked out.
Well, 47% I think is a very good statistic when you have Michael Cage, 6'9", playing center, Danny Ferry's your power forward, and no backup center, no backup power forward. So that's a pretty incredible statistic, and that's a credit to the good young players, the smaller players, and Mike Fratello.
Chris Mills will inbound. Seattle still hitting below 40%. They're 11 of 31. In contrast, 48% now for Cleveland. They're at 12 of 25. Bobby Sura from Florida State, 17th player picked in the draft last spring. Mills. He'll shoot free throws. Kemp with the foul.
That's good execution. Whoever Cleveland puts down on the block, they're all good passers out of the double teams. Here, Mills makes a good decision. They run out on him. They can't defend both. They can't defend the shot. We saw him shoot the three-pointer when they backed off him, and when they get up on him, we see him go to the hole and draw the foul. Perfect basketball execution.
Mills does not get into double figures.
That makes it not perfect.
Yeah. 80% free throw shooting. You don't expect that. 10 of 17 from the line for Cleveland. So there's one area in which they could use a little improvement tonight. George Carl looks on. Missed them both.
Well, they're shooting nearly 80% of this good run they've had, so they are a good free throw shooting team.
10 of 18 from the free throw line tonight. Underneath the Gary Payton. Sura gets it into the hands of Marley. Here comes Cleveland. Marley takes it all the way up and in. Perkins couldn't foul it.
Well, I've seen Dan Marley make that play. We used to call him the White Doctor in Phoenix when he made that running one-handed scoop shot to the basket.
That's a high testimony of praise. Here's Payton at the other end over Ferry. That's the third foul on Danny Ferry. So he'll go to the bench. Marley.
This is the move which is so typical. He's got big, strong hands. He goes in there and finishes at the basket.
Gary Payton at the other end, and Ferry picks up his third foul. That puts Gary Payton on the line. Chris Mills. Payton with the quick hands. Kemp has it. Whoa, ball.
You know, that is so good defense by Gary Payton. Coaches love that. He misses the free throw, but he finds a way to get even more better results with a two-pointer by Sean Kemp.
Seattle pulls to within 5. They led by as many as, or trailed by as many as 11. Here's Sura. Back to Marley. Payton comes over.
We got Perkins on Marley again. Let's see if he shoots a 3 or goes.
Backs up, takes the 3. Got it.
That's the Dan I know right there. He loves to shoot that back-up three-pointer. He's been struggling with it a little bit this year, but he'll never lose his confidence. He'll keep shooting it until they take him off the court.
Marley with 20 points against Phoenix and 20 points against Denver. He's already picked up 12 in the first half off the bench. How about that shot?
Well, that's a good move. And Dan Marley's so strong, he can make up for his lack of size with his strength in the low post. That was a pretty good shot by Sam Perkins.
Sura guarded by Hersey Hawkins. Back in the hands of Marley.
When he hits one, he likes to shoot another one.
This time he takes him off the dribble. Little runner is up and in.
Hey, his game is expanding, that's for sure. They can't defend both. They get to take away the 3. He'll go to the hole, draw the foul, or hit the hoop.
14 points for Marley. The shot not there. Kemp is fouled as he goes up to get the rebound. 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining in the first half. An 8-point Cleveland lead, fueled by Dan Marley.
The NBA on TNT is brought to you by Hyundai. Some of the best ideas.
2:50 to go in the first half. Let's go back and take a look at Dan Marley, Danny.
Well, this is the Dan Marley I remember in Phoenix right here. He tried to drive, but he loves that three-point line. Set all sorts of records in Phoenix. But if you get up and try to take that drive away from him, he brings out the white doctor and the shovel shot to the basket.
Well, Dan Marley with 14, your former teammate. We talked a little bit a while ago about the Key Arena and how we're very close to the folks who love their Supersonics here.
Yeah, these guys are right here. Could you guys go get us some popcorn?
How you guys
possibly? You enjoying the game?
Great.
All right.
Did you pay a lot for these seats? Yeah.
Hey.
And then you got 2 guys talking in front of you, right?
Hey, do you know how to work a telestrator?
Can you get the telestrator to work?
Him here than out there.
You'd rather have him here. You know what? So would I. It's going very well.
Are you guys enjoying yourselves?
Absolutely. Seattle's terrific. And in the meantime, Sean Kemp is at the line. Missed the second. Michael Cage with the rebound. 2:45 to go first half. 43-35. The lead is back to 8. Here's Terrell Brandon. Danny Ainge, Kemp. Shot clock at 5. Bobby Bills takes it over Perkins as the shot clock expires, and he hits it for 2.
And that's frustrating for the Sonics again. Pretty good defense by Perkins, but that's the mismatch they wanted to exploit, and they really make sure they get it to a mismatch when there's 5 seconds left on the shot clock.
45-10, back to a 10-point margin. Kemp gets it back to Perkins. There's Hersey Hawkins all by himself underneath. Two minutes to go, first half.
You don't see Hersey Hawkins in the paint too often scoring. He's usually out by that three-point line trying to hit the 3s when they rotate to him.
Bills. Oh, he missed it. The tip from Cage won't go. Nate McMillan has the ball for Seattle. Here's Gary Payton. Terrell Brandon got caught out of position. Misses it. Perkins. Marley with the rebound. Final 80 seconds of the first half. Cleveland up by as many as 11. They jumped off to a 7-0 lead. Seattle got back to within 2 at 12-10. Then it went back to 11. Here's a steal from Payton. Got it.
execution at the defensive end by Seattle. Marley tried to take Hersey Hawkins. He didn't have the mismatch this time. Thought he got fouled, but tried to force the pass through. Gary Payton, the leading stealer in the league, steals the ball and gets an easy two.
Bobby Bills, Payton comes on the double team, and there's a foul called on McMillan, I believe, as a Hawkins. Yep, McMillan. Coming up on the Reebok halftime report, Craig Sager will report from Phoenix with more on the firing of Paul Westphal earlier this morning. And Ernie Johnson and Cheryl Miller are in our Atlanta studios, where they'll be joined live by the Pistons' Grant Hill from Detroit. I miss Cheryl Miller. We've got to get her back on the road with us.
Yeah, we haven't had Cheryl with us for a while.
Last time we did, George Karl and the Seattle Supersonics lost to Toronto.
Oh, Mike Pearl, if you're listening back in Atlanta, we want Cheryl Miller on our team. We need a sideline reporter.
Lonely here in Seattle. Well, not really. We've got the folks in the stands. You know, you did a good job on the sidelines last Friday night in Phoenix.
I didn't enjoy that very much, although it was a good game. It's more fun with you, Vern, talking about the game.
47-39. Here's Kemp. In the hands of Askew. Hawkins looks for Sam Perkins. A skip pass quickly to Gary Payton. Nice move. Short. Kemp with a putback. Up in the air for the rebound. 19 points for Shawn Kemp.
Well, Kemp had his head at the rim. I didn't see a Cavalier even with their hand at the net that time. He was head and shoulders above everybody on that tip in.
9 rebounds for Shawn Kemp to complement his 19 points. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Here's Marley. Foul called as he passes the ball to his right.
You know, I was wrong. I thought they were trying to have Marley drive on Sam Perkins only, but they got Marley trying to drive on Hersey Hawkins and now on Vince Askew, who's one of the best defenders on the team. They put their best defensive players, or best offensive players against Askew, and here Marley takes him to the left, beats him off the dribble, draws the foul.
Foul is on Askew. That's his first. Marley shooting 2. Well, the free throw woes continue now for Cleveland. 12 of 20. 12 of 21. Yeah, this is a team that hits 76% for the season. Well, on the road, that is so critical.
Yeah, they need to make their free throws if they're going to win.
Wow. Well, we've reached the halfway point. An 11-point lead cut down to 6. Shawn Kemp with a big first half to keep Seattle in this. 19 points and 9 rebounds. Dan Marley off the bench with 14 points, but the memory of the 2 missed free throws won't make him happy.
You got a wet spot? Let's go. Right here.
You missed a spot.
Thank you.
What do you need to fall in love again?
That's why I love TV.
Back at Key Arena in Seattle, getting ready to start the second half. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who led by as many as 11. As a matter of fact, they led by 11 at the end of the first, lead by 6 as we get ready for the third. Danny, you said at the outset, if we had a Cleveland-style game, it would be close. If it was Seattle's tempo, it could be a runaway.
Well, it's definitely Cleveland's tempo right now. If the game stays the way it is, it'll be 94-82. So that's definitely to Cleveland's liking, and that's why they're able to stay in this game.
Well, the statistical breakdown looks this way. Offensive rebounds, Seattle has the edge, and they also lead in second chance points. But the free throw problems for the Cavs tonight have really proven costly, even though they lead. They were 12 of 22 in the first half. The Sonics not much better with 64% in the first play. Cleveland jumped off to a quick lead with a turnover leading to the first basket. They scored the first 7 points of the game.
Well, that's excellent defense by Bobby Fields. He not only helped stop the penetration of Sam Perkins, but he starts the fast break with his defense. And we said before the game, he was as good a defensive player as there is in the league at the 2 position. And Gary Payton, this is his type of game. He wishes he could get in the open court more against this Cleveland team, but they're controlling the tempo right now, and he hasn't had a chance to do that much. Shawn Kemp was a man among boys in that first half. He had a bunch of offensive rebounds, 7 for 10 points, and they don't have a guy that can guard him. They're going to have to continue to double team him. Here we got Cleveland with excellent teamwork, ball movement. Dan Marley's the beneficiary with the shot clock running down. He gets the easy finish under the basket.
Well, let's take a look at how this has been Cleveland's style in the first half. For the season, yielding only 92 points, turnovers 14 per game. And in the first half, here's the way it breaks out. 41 points, 31 field goal attempts, 41 opposition field goal attempts, and 5 turnovers. They had 1 turnover first 16 minutes.
Well, they're getting a lot more field goal attempts than they're used to giving up. Seattle's getting more attempts, but they're not making very many. They're only shooting 41% from the field, and that's why Cleveland has been able to maintain the lead to this point. But like we mentioned earlier, Vern, this is a tough team to play against, and I think that Seattle will make the adjustments. They're used to the style after playing one half with that style, and they'll start shooting the ball a lot better, and this will be a lot closer game.
Cleveland, as we mentioned, is in the midst of a 7-game road trip. They've got 3 remaining after tonight. The Supersonics back home, they had a 7-game trip of their own, during which their only losses were to Orlando and to Chicago. And they are beginning a 5-night homestand, or 5-game homestand tonight. And they lead the division by 4 over Sacramento. Here's Hawkins, no. Michael Cage with the rebound. He's got 9, equaling Shawn Kemp in that category. Brandon Cage, Bobby Phills, Danny Ferry playing with 3 fouls. Here's Brandon. Kemp out with a mismatch. Now the switch as Askew comes out to get him. They've got Kemp out of position. Mills, yes, for 3.
Another heartbreaker, Vern. Seattle's playing very good defense, and Cleveland continues to hit those threes, and that's what George Karl feared coming into this game.
Sam Perkins gets the soft bounce off the rim, and a 2-pointer.
Well, Sam Perkins has a smaller guy playing him all night. He has been exploited at the defensive end. They haven't really tried to exploit him at the offensive end as much as I think that we'll probably see here in the second half.
Entry pass from Bobby Phills, back to Ferry. Brandon, Kemp. Over Kemp, no. Gary Payton gets the rebound. That's his first rebound tonight. Little spin move and lay, the basket won't fall. Bobby Phills on the run for Cleveland. Takes it strong all the way and puts it in.
Good play by Bobby Phills. It looked like he got hurt.
I think he hurt his back.
Yeah, he's limping back down the court.
Kick it back to Perkins for 3. 3-point shooting has not been strong. 0 for 6, 0 for 8 tonight for Seattle.
Oh, the way Cleveland's double teaming, Seattle's going to have to hit those threes if they want to stay in this game. Either that or penetrate off the double team and make them pay.
Foul is called on Hersey Hawkins. Watch this, Danny, and see that last drive by Bobby Phills if he didn't get hurt.
Well, I thought he could have made the pass up to Chris Mills for the easy one, but he goes in and challenges Sam Perkins, makes a pretty good finish. I don't know if he just pulled a muscle or just strained a back muscle. They're going in for that lay-in.
Foul on Hawkins was his 3rd. Chris Mills is shooting 2. Bobby Phills.
Looks like with that body, it would be tough to hurt.
Yes. Mills gets both free throws. The lead is back to 11. That equals the largest lead of the ballgame. It was 11 at the end of the first quarter and on a couple of other occasions. Hawkins takes it into Ferry.
Good ball fake by Hawkins right there. He ball faked it into the matchup down the low post that they want. They're trying to post up Payton against Brandon on the post. Phills went for the ball fake and opened the lane for Hawkins. Good decision with the ball.
And the foul on Bobby Phills, his 2nd. Hersey Hawkins at the free throw line, where he is the 4th best in the NBA. He's hitting 89%, 108 to 121. And once they got to December in Cleveland, it warmed up for Hersey Hawkins. There's a paradox.
Yeah, he's really playing well. He is an excellent shooter. Always has been, always will be, as long as he's in there. And it's just a matter of getting comfort and confidence and getting enough good looks to get that shooter's rhythm.
Think back to his senior year at Bradley in '88. He averaged 36 points a game then. And he brought that kind of touch into the pros. Mills. Nope. Got his own follow. Back to Michael Cage. 9:23 to go.
It's frustrating playing defense against these guys because they get a shot, then they get the rebound, and they run the clock down again before they get another shot.
Foul on Phil. Oh, Brandon, rather. There's that matchup of the Oregon kids.
Yeah, they're the second and third best Oregon players to ever come out of the state of Oregon.
Now, you played basketball in Eugene. Who would you say is the best player to ever come out of Oregon?
Well, my unbiased opinion?
Yeah.
Well, me.
I thought you might answer that. Matter of fact, you know, I'm going to let you think about it a little bit, and later on we'll get your list.
All right. Well, when Peyton and Brandon play a little bit longer, they'll overtake me, I'm sure. But they got to play 14 years and get a championship before I can let them pass me out.
All right, that's fair enough. 8:50 to go third quarter. Lead is 9. Ferry. Bobby Phils. And the foul is on Sam Perkins. Well, we're not going to let you think too long about this topic. Now, you played for Eugene High School.
Oh,
Here's Danny's list.
There's my list.
David Stoudemire, he's a rookie in Toronto.
Yeah. Ronnie Lee, you know, was one of my idols growing up, University of Oregon. Lonnie Shelton, great at Oregon State.
Yeah.
Richard Washington from UCLA, played in the NBA.
Who were those guys at 9?
That's my dad and my brother. They were good state. And I basically put that in to just bust AC Green a little bit. AC thinks he should be higher up.
You will next hear from AC Green. Brandon with 12 points tonight and Peyton for 10. It's kind of a Duck Beaver standoff. So
yeah, so far it's a standoff.
8:35. Percy Hawkins for 3. That's the first three-pointer tonight for Seattle. And it's a timely make. Cuts the lead to 7. Ferry. Oh, nifty pass.
Yeah, Danny Ferry, that's one of his strengths. He had 3 assists in the first half, made those excellent passes to start the game. Beautiful feed. Not a lot of power forwards in the league can make that kind of assist.
Vincent Askew answers for Seattle. And we're under 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. Chris Mills, Perkins comes to help out. Ferry tries to work it inside to Michael Cage. It's knocked out of bounds.
Well, right idea by Danny Ferry, but a little bit late. Good defense, getting the ball, hand on the ball there by the Sonics. Danny Ferry needs to make that feed a little quicker, and I think that the pass was open to Michael Cage underneath.
George Karl sends Nate McMillan onto the floor now, and Sam Perkins will rest. 4 on the shot clock. Ferry. Rebound McMillan. Seattle has never led in this game at home. Peyton. That cuts the lead to 5.
Well, Gary Payton, he's got that look in his eye. They put him on a bigger Mills to defend. They gave him a challenge defensively. They know this team is behind, and Gary Payton's going to take this game over. Him and Sean Kemp are the 2 leaders of this team that have really lifted this team to the level they're at now.
Here's Ferry. Nice basket. Ferry with 3 points in the game now. Basket will not go for Gary Payton. Take a look at Gary Payton.
This is the strength of his game, Vern. He loves the spin moves, the inside, the little tough shots off the glass, over the big guys. He's excellent. Danny Ferry has really improved his game and stepped it up a notch. There was a couple years ago he was getting beat out by Winston Bennett and Henry James, guys on 10-day contracts, and now he's a starting power forward on a winning team in the NBA, and that's got to be a happy moment for Danny Ferry to finally accomplish what he was set out to when he came out of college as the College Player of the Year.
Foul was on Chris Mills and Gary Payton makes the low. The lead is 5. Brandon, Dan Marley's back on the floor now. 14 first half points, 10 in the second quarter on 5 of 8 shooting. See if he can continue the hot streak. Brandon and Phil's trying to work the pick and roll. Bobby Phils, Marley spots up. Oh, wow. And Michael Cage couldn't get the layup.
Oh, that Michael's beautiful execution. Those are ones that you hate as a player missing. Michael's missed 2 of those tonight. He needs to finish those.
Hawkins takes a tough shot and is fouled in the process. Watch the miss by Michael Cage as we go to commercial.
The worst thing about the miss is not only do you miss the lay-in, but you give up 2 at the other end, or give up a foul at the other end, because they're able to fast break off this.
Time call with 6:32 to go in the third.
The NBA.
Arena in Seattle, Cleveland leading by 5, 59-54. Tyrone Hill injured in a car accident week 3. He is traveling with the team. Some reports had said he's ready to come back, but Mike Fratello said no. You watched him and talked to him this afternoon.
Yeah, he looks a lot longer than a week away. He looks weak. Not a week away. He's, I would say, a month before Tyrone Hill, at least if they expect him to come back and be a contributing factor like he was last year as an all-star.
He himself said his explosiveness is not there in any way, shape, or form. We watched him running wind sprints, and it was a bit of a struggle for him today.
Well, and his game is rebounding and pounding underneath, and you need that explosiveness. You need to be able to jump and move for the ball, and you're battling those big guys in there. So I'd be shocked if he's back within a month playing at any certain level of quality that he expects.
Hawkins gets the first of 2. He's perfect at the line tonight. This will be his 4th attempt, and this would get Seattle as close as they have been since it was 12-10 in the early going. Whoa. 3-point game. The Sonics have never led. They fell behind by 7 to open the game. Brandon guarded by Hersey Hawkins now. Gary Payton. Mills with the offensive board. The touch is not there. Loose ball picked up by Nate McMillan. And here come the Sonics. They can cut it to within 1 or tie. 13-5 in the last 3:20. Kemp out of the double team. Back to Kemp. He's fouled by Mills. That's the 3rd on Chris Mills.
Right now they're exploiting the size advantage. They're getting the tips. Cleveland's had some easy tips at the other end. Mills and Cage both that time had an easy opportunity at the tip end. But they got to execute. They got to follow up. They got to finish the shots, or it doesn't do them any good. Right now, Sean Kemp is, again, a man among boys down there on the low post. They have to double team, and when they go back into the low post, Sean is making them pay.
Coming up tomorrow night on TBS, Shaq and Penny and the Orlando Magic go into Phoenix to take on the Suns. Coach Cotton Fitzsimmons' first game she's taking over for Paul Westphal. Coverage begins at 8 o'clock tomorrow night on TBS. A 1-point game. Brandon guarded by Hawkins.
Hawkins has done a really good job on Brandon the last few minutes. That's the versatility that he has. He actually does a better job defending Brandon than he did at the low post defending Phils and Mills.
That jumper, no. Batted out of bounds. Whose ball? Cleveland ball.
Vern, you can see that Seattle's defensive intensity has really picked up here in the last 4 or 5 minutes. It all started with Hersey Hawkins pressuring Terrell Brandon out front, and Gary Payton's done a good job on their inside big guards.
5:24 to go, third quarter. Our friends who are sitting just behind us are making a little more noise now. Our new friends. Skip pass from Marley. Brandon, this time it's Payton again. Brandon takes it strong. The putback is not there. Cage finally gets it to fall. Brandon wondering what does he have to do to get a foul call.
Yeah, it looked like he got hammered on that drive. The shot clock was running down. I don't think the official would have banned that.
Askew with the answer. Back to a 1-point margin. 4:45 to go, third quarter. Marley to Mills. And there's a foul call that brings George Karl off the trampoline. Third team foul.
Here, Brandon, with 3 seconds, he started his drive. The shot clock goes off as he goes in for it. There wasn't as much contact. That was a pretty good no call. Good second effort by Michael Cage. He finally finished off an offensive rebound.
Marley, adjustment in the air. Shot won't fall. And Cleveland gets it back as it's knocked out of bounds by Nate McMillan. Marley with 14 points in the first half, none thus far in the third quarter. Inbounds it to Michael Cage. 10 on the shot clock, 4:20 to go, third quarter. Brandon. Back to Marley, 1. Shot clock violation. And a chance for Seattle to get a lead for the first time tonight.
Seattle's defense is turning this game around, and it's getting them back in it. They haven't shot the ball very well tonight, but their defense right now is completely different than it was in the first half. They're contesting every shot. They're making Cleveland run the shot clock down, but the difference is they're playing defense for 24 seconds, not 20 seconds like they were doing in the first half.
Cleveland 5 of 17 in this quarter. Testimony to the gunny defensive effort we've seen from Seattle. Hand check foul on Marley. Whoa. What do you think?
That's a pretty ticky-tack foul.
Yeah, I thought so too. Now look at the scores. It's tonight's GMC scoreboard. Remember to catch all the scores and highlights on CNN Sports tonight at 11 with Nick Charles and Fred Hickman.
You know, Bernard, the refs are starting to call that. Players need to adjust. There was a game the other night that was lost on this very call in Portland with Miami that Pat Riley got in trouble about arguing over. A very similar situation. Only difference, there was no time left on the clock. Rod Strickland goes to the line, makes a free throw, and Miami loses.
And Riley got fouled.
And that's a tough way to lose a game.
Oh.
That might need to get fined on that.
Seattle leads for the first time tonight. And they get the free throws on a hand check foul called on Dan Marley.
This is another great example of Gary Payton's defense on Terrell Brandon. He's isolated with him out at the top of the key, forcing him to his left so he can contest the jump shot. Seattle is more aware of the shot clock right now. With Dan Marley frees it right there, he catches the ball right here. We got two guys running at him knowing there's only 1 second on the shot clock. Unfortunately, Marley doesn't know there's only 1 second on the shot clock. Throws it into the inside and they get a turnover. Good
and then
defense.
the hand check foul on Marley that he'll be talking about for the remainder of the night.
You know Dan didn't know the shot clock because he doesn't pass up a three-pointer with the shot clock running down.
19-7 lead. A run, rather, in the last 5:50. The Cavs have scored 1 field goal in the last 3 minutes. Brandon, Fills, Marley, Mills, and Cage for Cleveland. Gary Payton guards Brandon. He goes by him. But then there's Sean Kemp, who requires you to alter a shot.
Yeah, it got a little dark when Brandon, only 5'11", got inside right there. Kemp forced it to almost shoot it all the way over the backboard.
There's altering your shot, then there's Sean Kemp. 10 on the shot clock. 1 point Seattle lead. McMillan. A 4-point Seattle lead.
Well, they need that perimeter shooting. They weren't hitting their threes early in the game, but really I don't see any reason for them to have to double team. Fills is guarding Gary Payton down low. There's no reason for them to double team.
That's the second three-pointer of the night. First from McMillan. Here's Marley. Cage with the rebound. 2:53 to go, third quarter. And a 4-point Seattle lead. That shot off the glass and in, Bobby Fills.
Yeah, that's a good one-on-one basketball move by Bobby Fills. Right now, they really don't have any serious mismatches to go to, so they're just going to have to use their one-on-one abilities to try to create something for themselves or their teammates.
Peyton Schaaf off the iron. Here's Brandon. Pulls up, takes the jumper. In and out. Marley steals it. Gets it back for Cleveland. They have a chance to tie or go up by 1. Dan Marley off the dribble over Hawkins. Gets it and is fouled. He'll go to the free throw.
And there's the White Doctor. Scoop shot by Dan Marley. Still got the thunder in him. Going to the basket.
Sean Kemp with a foul.
Right here, again, Hersey Hawkins has done a good job of containing Terrell Brandon all night. Marley goes by him, uses his strength. Dan is extremely strong, obviously, and makes a good finish. We saw Brandon not be able to finish over Kim. Marley just sticks the big hands out there and shoots up the little flipper.
Marley is now 3 of 7 from the free throw line. He's missed 4. There's a steal by Bills. Payton gets it back. To Hawkins. No. Tip, no. McMillan, no. Foul.
Good effort by Seattle right there, and a good effort by Cleveland. They didn't get back on defense. Phils almost bailed them out with a good steal, but the continued effort by Nate McMillan under the basket gets him to the free throw line again.
Second foul on Terrell Brandon, and McMillan's back at the line. The contrast is great at the free throw line. Seattle 17 of 21 as McMillan gets ready to shoot this shot. Well, it's catching.
That free throw shooting's contagious, Vern. We talked about that before. Cleveland's doing a good job. They're getting to the free throw line 27 times. They've just only made 15. That doesn't cut it. They've been shooting so well from the free throw line. It was a good stretch they've had.
And McMillan misses both. 2 minutes to go, quarter number 3. Good job by Payton again. Third steal tonight. And McMillan and Askew at the other end, and Vincent Askew gets the basket.
Well, that's what Seattle wants to do. They want to create offense with their defense, and Payton did a good job of jumping over Mills, stealing the ball, getting the easy 2 points for Askew at the other end.
Bobby Phills veers inside. Payton went for the steal, and he does not have to pay. They missed the layup. Payton will bring it back outside. Moylan late getting it Hawkins. And Hawkins hits a three-pointer. He slipped on something, but at least he's smiling about it.
Well, that's the one guy you don't want to leave open on the three-point line is Hersey Hawkins. He's been shooting the ball well. He's the best shooter on their team. And they can't afford to allow Hersey to have open shots.
He that giveth also taketh. Now Seattle gets called for a hand check foul. It's on Sean Kemp, and that is his 4th foul. Now that's going to loom large.
That could be very large. They're going to bring David Wingate in and go with a smaller lineup.
Watch Hawkins falling out of bounds now. He landed in somebody's lap, and they shoved him back. Oh, man.
Must have been a Cleveland fan.
No kidding. That's unbelievable. Strong lady. She was in a definite defensive posture.
Now Hersey won't hear the end of that when he got body slammed by one of the halftime dancers.
Chris Mills is knocked out of bounds, and he's the last to touch it. Danny Ferry coming back on the court now, replacing Michael Cage for Mike Fratello.
Well, we got 10 perimeter players on the court right now, Vern. Sam Perkins, the biggest guy on the court. The strength of his game at this stage of his career is his three-point shooting. So there'll be a lot of switching and one-on-one penetration to kick to the shooters.
Final 50 seconds of the quarter. Payton, they double him with Chris Mills. Right side, Hawkins. Oh, Grant, really.
Hey, Seattle's taking a page. George Karl's taking a page from Mike Fratello's book. Post up the mismatch you got. Payton against Brandon on the outside. Space the floor with 4 shooters and see if they can stop them.
Been a big quarter for Seattle and a big quarter for Hersey Hawkins. Brandon, and a chance for the final basket for Seattle. They're up by 8. They were down by 6. They've outscored Cleveland by 14 in the 3rd quarter. Wingate, in and out. Here comes Bobby Phills.
A big possession right here.
They kick it over to Marley. Short. Offensive foul was called. The basket was not accounted.
Good defense by Sam Perkins. Gave up his body. He couldn't stop Bobby Phil's penetration, so he got his body in front of him, drew the foul.
Chris Mills picks up his 4th foul.
I think that was the wrong call. I think that was Bobby Phills.
I thought it was too. Yeah, they're correcting it now. Well, see, it confuses the public address announcer too. Phills, Mills. That's the fourth on Phills. No basket. No basket. Well, the Cavaliers led by 11 at the end of one. They led by 6 at the half. They scored only 18 in the third. And they fall behind by 8 on the road to a Seattle team that has lost only once at home this year. Cleveland led by 11 at the end of one. As you can see, that fell off to a 6-point margin. They were outscored 32-18 in the third quarter and have now fallen behind by 8. Vern Lundquist, Danny Ainge before a sellout crowd on an early game here in the Pacific Northwest. Not yet 7 o'clock in Seattle, so time for dinner after the game for some. Brandon Perkins falls down, foul on Sam Perkins.
Well, good acting job by Terrell to make sure he got the call. Act like he got poked in the eye.
Bobby Sura getting ready to check in now. He played 4 minutes in the second quarter. He will replace Bobby Phills.
Well, I think this is more Bobby's natural position. He probably feels a little bit more comfortable playing the 2 guard than he does the 1 guard, particularly in the fourth quarter.
Marley stays on the floor. So does Farrell. And Chris Mills, Terrell Brandon. That's the 5 that's on the floor for Cleveland. David Wingate, who started the game and then went to the bench fairly early. Back to the floor now. He flies in the face of Marley, who hits it for 3.
I think the fans are too close here. Everybody hits a 3 and starts falling down on their way back down the court.
19 points for Marley, but only 5 in this half.
You know how many big 3-pointers Dan Marley has hit against the Seattle Supersonics? A lot over the years as a member of the Phoenix Suns.
Wingate, Sura guards him, 3 on the shot clock. Oh boy, that's a bonus.
Well, we're seeing reversal of fortune here, Vern. They're running the shot clock down. Seattle now, they're making those 3-pointers. That's what Cleveland was doing all throughout the first half.
Chris Mills gets the basket at the other end, 76-70. Rebound into the hands of Bob Sura. First round draft pick from Florida State. Right side to Brandon. Now Ferry. Entry pass to Marley, who's double teamed, and Payton almost had another steal. They called the foul on Hersey Hawkins.
The amazing thing was Marley almost caught that ball with 2 guys in front of him.
4th foul on Hawkins.
Right here, this drive right here by Terrell Brandon. He split the defense right before they came over to trap. That's what he was talking about with Mark Price, that he learned from Mark Price. Chris Mills goes in for a great follow.
Kemp on the bench with 4. Hawkins plays with 4. Mills, pump fake travel. 10:15 to go in the ball game.
I thought that was a good call. Chris Mills looked a little undecisive on what he wanted to do when he caught the ball down there in the low post.
Turnovers now. Cleveland 9, Seattle only 4. They turn it over an average of 18 times per game. Perkins out of the double team to Payton. Oh, nice rebound by Bob Sura.
Well, he's a very good athlete.
Looked like Danny Ainge.
A young Danny Ainge.
Marley gets 2.
Got in the 8th grade.
He does have a first base look, doesn't he? Loose ball. Ferry gets it for Cleveland. The lead is 4, 9:30 to go. Mills, Sura, Ferry, Brandon to Marley. Askew guards Sura. Perkins guards Marley.
Marley's going to shoot this. Well, they came to the double team and made him pass it.
Mills gets the jumper, gets his own rebound. Barry Payton takes it. And at the other end, here's Wingate.
Well, Chris Mills could have gotten back on defense. He thought he could get that offensive rebound. When he didn't come up with it, he left him at a disadvantage on the defensive end.
Pick and roll, Ferry, Terrell Brandon. Brandon, got it. That's for two. Payton, Seattle forces the tempo, and Payton is fouled. He'll go to the free throw line.
Cleveland's not doing near as good a job as they did in the first half of getting back on defense. That is Seattle's strength. Gary Payton is the best point guard, or one of the best point guards, along with Rod Strickland, at finishing in the fast break, one-on-one in the open court.
Sean Kemp back on the floor playing with 4, and Sam Perkins goes to the bench. And Gary Payton shoots free throws. He's 4 of 5 from the line tonight. Sonics are 18 of 24. 19 of 25. And back to a 6-point edge. 8:35 remaining in this one. Danny Ferry backs in and misses the jumper. Loose ball picked up by Sean Kemp. He finds Askew. Right side to Hawkins, and the runner is good.
Good execution right now. Mike Fratello's not happy with Cleveland's transition defense. That's not their forte. Their forte is to slow the game down. Right now, Seattle's rebounding, pushing the ball off the court, and getting easy shots in transition.
Time now for tonight's Dutch boy in the paint. The Cavaliers have been outscored in the paint by 12 by Seattle. The big man, Sean Kemp, 21 points to only 4 for Michael Cage. 8 minutes to go in the ball game, and an 8-point lead for the Seattle Supersonics. Foul is going to be called on Vincent Askew.
Well, that was interesting how Cleveland set up that play. They wanted to post up Chris Mills on Hersey Hawkins. So Brandon just kept going off pick, off pick, off pick until he had the matchup they wanted. He went down in the post and they got the foul. Marley tried to drive because they were trying to keep the ball out of the post.
Pick and roll, Brandon and Cage. Now Brandon penetrates back outside. Marley asking for good defense. Shot clock shows 10. Here's Bob Sura. Takes it off the dribble, drives, foul. Is it Kemp? If so, it's his 5th. Let's see. Nope. It's going to be called on David Wingate. Well, Danny, while you're playing golf back in Phoenix this weekend, I'll be down in Mobile Saturday afternoon on TBS, the Senior Bowl, featuring some of the top prospects for April's NFL Draft. Bobby Hoying from Ohio State, Derek Mays of Notre Dame lead the North Squad, Danny Cannell of Florida State, Auburn tailback Stephen Davis lead the South. Coverage begins at 2 o'clock from Ladd Memorial Stadium in Mobile, Alabama, Saturday on TBS. That's a lot to say in a short time.
Where's Keyshawn Johnson?
Yes. 22nd timeout, and it was Kemp who picked up his 5th.
Yes, David Wingate tried to raise his hand to deceive the officials, but they didn't buy it. They gave the foul on Sean.
Mike Fratello and the Cleveland Cavaliers will depart Seattle immediately after the game, fly up to Vancouver where they play on Friday night. The Sonics, as we said, beginning a 5-game homestand. They've got the New York Knicks coming in here. By the way, their game back about a week ago in New York was one of those affected by the blizzard of '96. That game has been rescheduled for Monday, April the 8th in Madison Square Garden.
They were really hoping to play that game because Patrick Ewing was hurt. They needed that win. See George Karl right there. George Karl, they really want to have the best record in the West so George can get to the All-Star game. The players were talking about that, and they'd like to see George get to the All-Star game so they don't have to practice that week.
Has nothing to do with the honor for him, huh? And the Cavaliers have to call timeout.
Well, Seattle has that quick defense, and Cleveland can't get it inbounds.
.732 remaining in regulation. Seattle up by 8 to 82-74. Let's show you a brief synopsis of what has happened here tonight in the first quarter. Dan Majerle helped propel the Cleveland Cavaliers to an 11-point lead. They were up by 11, and Majerle continued his hot play. He got 10 of his 14 first half points in the second quarter. This three helped Cleveland, but despite that, the lead was only 6 at the half. Then in the third quarter, Hersey Hawkins hit the first three-pointer of the night for Seattle. This basket, the Sonics outscored them by 14 in the third quarter to lead by 8 at the end of 3, and that's where we stand right now. Seattle up by 8 with 7:32 remaining in regulation.
And like we talked about before the game, Vern, whoever dictates the tempo has had the best success in this game. Right now, Cleveland has a tough time coming from 8 points behind because they may have to pick up the tempo. Not yet, but in a couple minutes, if they haven't cut the lead, they're going to have to go into Seattle's tempo, and then they could be in real trouble.
Another turnover forced by a Seattle team that leads the league in that category. That's 10 turnovers now for Cleveland, but they had only 1 in the first 16 minutes. The contrast is pretty great. Seattle hasn't turned it over in this half. They have only 4 turnovers in the ball. Payton for 3 as the shot clock winds down. Loose ball, chased down by Michael Cage. It's on the line. Seattle ball.
Well, that was a good effort by Cleveland, but Michael Cage has got a lot of rebounds tonight. He was hustling, but it was just a good bounce for Seattle right there. They're going to bring in Bobby Phills for Bobby Sura now. Bobby Sura didn't get many opportunities. In order for him to be the player that he can be, he really needs to learn that outside shot. If he's going to continue penetrating with the great athletic ability that he has, he needs to shoot better and open that side part of the game up for him.
Here's Hawkins. Back to Kemp. The basket, give him a free throw.
That's impressive. He just took Michael Cage, who's very strong. A double team came, didn't even act like it was there. Shot right over him, got the easy basket and the free throw. Look at this, Vern. They double team him on the post. He doesn't even know it's there. He just goes, get out of my way, I'm scoring.
And the first double-digit lead of the night belongs to Seattle now. They're up by 11. 85-74, 6.5 to go. Hawkins guards Brandon. Hand check foul. George Karl. George Karl doesn't necessarily agree with it.
I think Mike Fratello, the referees are saying they're in the penalty, and Fratello's going, no, we want it on the side. We're only 15 for 31 from the free throw line. We want international rules. Let's take the ball out of bounds.
Well, there may be some free throw practice in Vancouver tomorrow. Majerle's only 3 of 7. There may be some free throw practice in Seattle tonight. They may delay departure for half an hour.
Well, it's really important for this team particularly to make their free throws because they're just so limited on the offensive inside game they have.
Majerle gets called for his 4th foul.
That was a frustration foul right there. Dan's a career over 70% free throw shooter. This is very unlike him, but he has struggled all year from the free throw line.
Lead is 11, 6:07 to go. Kemp, Majerle with a double. Picked off by Cleveland. That's the first Seattle turnover of this half. Brandon for 3. Off the mark. Hawkins gets it for the Sonics.
So you never see Terrell Brandon do that at other times of the game, but because they're down 11 right now, they have to play an up-tempo game, and this is where they get in trouble.
Sean Kemp. Nice touch pass to Gary Payton in the corner. Mills gets the ball. 85-74. Cleveland 5 of 15 from three-point range tonight. They're going to need that weapon to get back in this thing. Kemp with another rebound.
Oh, ill-advised pass.
Got a little anxious.
Yeah, that's a little bit reckless. He saw Payton open. It was a good idea. He just threw it over his head, threw it out of bounds into the first row.
Trying to get back to that dance girl that knocked Hersey Hawkins back on the floor. There she is. to go in the ball game. Foul.
Defensive players.
They'll have scores and highlights from tonight's action or on the Suns coaching change, and they'll take a look at the Lakers' Cedric Ceballos. That's immediately after our ball game tonight.
Well, finally, they got their 90% free throw shooter on the line. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, Terrell Brandon, number 2 in the NBA, hitting 92%. That's his first free throw tonight. 5 fouls on Hawkins.
He missed one earlier in the first quarter.
That's
but he
right.
hasn't shot one since the first part of the game.
Had a string of 67 in a row earlier.
Maybe he learned that free throw shooting stroke from Mark Price as well. Inherited it as the point guard of the Cavs. Gary Payton's tough. He's been their go-to guy right here. They're taking turns with Kemp and Payton. But they really feel that Payton can take advantage with his 5-inch advantage over Brandon in the low post.
Here's Marley playing with 5 fouls. The double comes from Wingate. Brandon couldn't quite control the pass. Gets it to Bobby Phills. He drives. Michael Cage. Vincent Askew wins that battle and knocks it into the hands of Hersey Hawkins. Payton, bounce pass, and a foul. 3-second violation.
Well, Seattle's getting a little bit over anxious. They're finally getting excited because they get to play in their up-tempo game, but they really need to use some clock themselves, exploit the mismatches, and get a good shot every time down the court.
7 turnovers now for the Sonics, 3 in the last couple of minutes. Marley kicks it out to Bobby Phills. Hersey Hawkins chases down the long rebound. Hawkins has played well tonight. It was his play offensively that helped spark Seattle in the 3rd quarter. And George Karl wants a timeout call. 3 minutes and 53 seconds remaining in the ball game.
On their way. Denver gives it up. I like that. McDyess coming out being aggressive. I think he remembers that game the other night. Didn't play as well as he's capable of playing. Looked to do a different job tonight.
Ron Strickland, 2nd in the league in assists, and not on the All-Star ballot. Here's Dudley through his hands, grabbed by Brian Stiff. That pass surprised Chris Dudley. He's Stiff, hands off to Dale Ellis. Mahmoud off the McDyess screen. Antonio in the paint over Dudley.
Just like that, get in a good position. When you get the ball that deep in the paint, usually some good things are going to happen because it puts a lot of pressure on the defense.
And we're back up by 1 here in the early going. Rod Strickland for the Blazers. Big night for Strickland on Saturday. Here's McKee just inside the line. He missed, fouled his shot. Dale didn't. And the foul blocked by McDyess, but tumbled aboard.
Hold you down with restrictions or yearly limits. But not the Discover card. The more you use your card, the higher your cashback bonus award. And you're never restricted on how you can use cash. When it comes to rebates from the Discover card, the sky's the limit. It pays to Discover, the card that pays you back. Use it where you see the Novus sign.
Steals for Gary. 3:53 remaining in the ball game. 87-76. Seattle has the lead, but they've turned it over 3 times in the last couple of minutes. Nevertheless, the Sonics have gotten the tempo in their favor now. Mike Fratello's team facing a formidable task in the second half. Cleveland with only 29 points and hitting only 31%, and the free throw woes have cost them. They are 17 of 35. Wingate, Payton, Sean Kemp, Hersey Hawkins, Vincent Askew on the floor for Seattle. And Chris Mills knocks it out of the hands of Sean Kemp. That's 4 turnovers in the last 2.5 minutes.
Well, that's 2 silly turnovers by Sean Kemp. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get the double team for Kemp and get the easy 3-point shot or the perimeter shot right there. And Sean's been careless with the ball. Then he gets a technical on top of it.
So then with Sam Terrell Brandon to the free throw line, where he is 3 of 4 tonight. Now that cuts the margin to 10 with 3:40 remaining.
You know, Sean's really working on his image. He feels like he was tainted by guilt by association in the World Games last year. And I think he's changing. He's becoming more mature. And that's not a sign of it right there. But everybody in the Seattle organization will tell you he's really become more mature this year and provided a lot of leadership.
And this foul is going to be called on Hersey Hawkins, I believe. Let's see. Nope. David Wingate. Well, he's maturing, and he's also improving his play on the court.
The only frontline player in history that improved in points and rebounds in his first 7 years in the NBA. That's a pretty incredible stat. He came in such a youngster with high expectations, and 21.4 and 12.1 rebounds is pretty impressive stats. And he would really love to be rewarded at the end of this year with not only a championship possibly in Seattle, but a spot on that Olympic team.
David Wingate heads to the bench.
I don't know who's going to get that other spot, but it could be Mitch Richmond. He's a guy that a lot of people are talking about as maybe filling the 11th and 12th spots. Kemp and Richmond are 2 candidates high on the list right now.
Well, Lenny Wilkins will make that choice with, I'm sure, some input from a lot of people.
Absolutely. Sean Elliott's another candidate. We saw him last week, and he's having a fantastic year.
Here's Gary Payton, little jump stop, and the shot will not go. A Seattle team that apparently is going to go 26-10. Bobby Phills picks up his 5th foul. And Payton goes to the line.
Gary Payton to the line for 2 shots.
Gary 6 of 7. And he misses. Just a moment ago, here's Mike Fratello on the sideline.
And he doesn't ever give up, does he? He thinks they still have a chance to win this game. He's still coaching. 3 minutes to go. They're down by 9 points.
I gather that you have a lot of respect for Mike as a coach.
I think Mike is tremendous. You know, I just think that what he does playing against his teams. I remember last year they did such a great job on us in Phoenix. We changed our defense to try to emulate what he was doing in Cleveland.
Is it a matter of knowledge of the game or the way he handles players?
I think it's both. I think coaching, there's so many qualities and so many factors of being a good coach, but I think he really understands the game, the X's and O's, makes good adjustments as the game goes along, and the players love him.
Gary Payton getting a little bit of a rest. And Chris Mills is at the line. Mills will shoot 1 more. He's had a little more success than his teammates at the free throw line. Now 8 of 12 tonight.
That's still under par for him.
Yep, it sure is. 7-point game with 3 minutes to go. Payton kicks it back outside to Nate McMillan. Here's Kemp, who almost loses it. Gage went for the steal. Oh, boy. Big basket.
Oh, huge play by Sean Kemp. He just dribbled through the whole defense, got the double pump shot, finished it off. Big hoop for Seattle after it looked like they were going to have a turnover and 2 points for Cleveland the other way.
Kemp, 26 points in the night. Bobby Phills, that's goaltending on Kemp. Watch the play once again, Danny, by Sean Kemp.
Well, he just takes the ball. Looks like they're going to lose it. Makes a good second effort, dribbles around the quicker Brandon, weaves his way through the whole team. Even if he didn't make that shot, he was going to get the rebound for the second opportunity.
18 points for Bobby Phills at the other end. 2:10 remaining in this one. And a 7-point game. Payton, yep.
Well, he's another star performer. Those 2 guys have led him and Kemp have led the team all year long. And that's right up Payton's alley. spin dribbling in the paint.
21 points for Gary Payton to complement the 26 of Shawn Kemp. Here's Terrell Brandon.
Big one-on-one move by Brandon. The thing about Cleveland is they have a tough time coming back. They're only down 7, but they got to make defensive stops, and it takes them a little bit longer to score than Seattle.
Shot clock at 10. And the ball's in the hand of Kemp. Skip pass. McMillan. 3 on the shot clock. There's the dagger.
Beautiful feed by McMillan. He read the double team, read the rotations. Cleveland wasted 2 timeouts, if you remember, too. That's going to hurt them right now. They got to push the ball up. They don't even know how to do that. They're walking the ball up. Already 15 seconds on the shot clock, and they haven't got anything going.
Brandon. Rebound Kemp. 16 rebounds to complement his 28 points. He's got 3 20-20 games in his career.
And he's leading the league in rebounding like we talked about. He's having a tremendous year. Not very many guys have led the league in rebounding as a forward.
Take a look at that pass to Shawn Kemp that may have sealed this one.
Well, it's a real breakdown. They rotate. Michael Cage leaves the double team and leaves Kemp open under the basket. Nate McMillan, you got to give him credit, had his eyes open with 2 seconds on the shot clock. A lot of guys would have just let it fly. But he kept his eyes open, kept his poise, and found Kemp wide open at the rim.
Payton picks up his 3rd foul, and Bobby Phills will go to the line. Phills is 6 of 8 from the free throw line.
Bobby Phills has really improved his game. I don't believe Bobby Phills is an all-star performer this year, but he's real close. He's one of those guys right on the bubble. And maybe next year, he'll just improve that much more and make that all-star team.
You do think Brandon is, though, right?
Definitely Brandon. If Brandon doesn't make it, there's something wrong.
43 seconds remaining in this one. Kemp 11 of 16, 16 rebounds. That one almost stolen. Shot clock at 5. Defensive play by Bobby Phills. Hersey Hawkins puts it up and in. Wow.
Well, that was a really good effort by Seattle right there. Hersey had to shoot the ball. Their shot clock was running down. 2nd, 3rd effort. He knows he got fouled. But the refs are saying, hey, there's only 24 seconds left. We don't want to call foul with a 9-point difference right now.
Just under 25 seconds remaining in regulation. Seattle up by 9. Shawn Kemp with a big night, 28 to 16. Gary Payton with 21 points. Hersey Hawkins with 21. It was a huge 3rd quarter that propelled the Seattle team into the lead. They were down by as many as 11 in the first half. They trailed by 6 at the half, but they were up by 8 at the end of 3, and they lead by 9 now with 25 seconds to go. En route, it would appear, to their 15th victory at home against 1 loss. Hawkins with 21 points and 10 rebounds.
I think he just got 3 rebounds on that last play.
Cleveland with 1 timeout remaining. Marley will inbound. And he gets it in the hands of Terrell Brandon. Brandon hits for 2. 96-89, 20 seconds, 19.3 left. Askew across the timeline. Dishes right. Kemp gets the feed from Payton. 30 points for Shawn Kemp.
Rubbed it in a little bit.
And a foul on Vincent Askew to stop the clock with 6 seconds remaining. Take that last play, the feed from Payton.
Well, very unselfish play by Payton. Shawn makes a good dunk, but I don't know why he has to grab the rim and hold his ear a little bit. You know, that's the kind of stuff that got him in trouble at the World Games. So I guess he wants to be entertaining to the fans and all that kind of stuff, but the opposing team doesn't like to see a dunk when they're down by 10 with 6 seconds to go. You don't need to rub it in to that extent.
Brandon at the line. 24 points tonight now for Terrell Brandon.
Well, Cleveland's had a good game. You know, it's just hard to battle the inside play of Sean Kemp with the personnel that they have. They've only played 7 players on the night. Michael Cage has had to carry a heavy load, and they just don't have enough on the inside to compete with a team like Seattle, and they did a good job for most of the game.
Well, that certainly underlines the problem. One of the problems for Cleveland tonight, their 92% free throw shooter has missed 2 this evening. And the Cavaliers are going to go 1-3 on the road trip. They go to Vancouver, as we said, to play Friday night. And they've got a game at Los Angeles and Portland before they go home. And at the other end, Sean Kemp at the free throw line. 31 points for Kemp tonight. It'll stay at 31.
He wanted to make that to get to the 100-point mark, but they fall short.
Well, Cleveland holds them under 100 for the 28th time this year, but they lose the ball game, and they are heading to Vancouver. Cleveland is that is, and the Seattle Supersonics go to 15-1 and are at home now for 4 more games. Next up for them will be the New York Knicks on Friday night. Final score of 99-90, a 32-14 run or 32-18 run in the third quarter, and Seattle wins it